Good evening. These are the notes for Chapter 4, Section 4, Everyday Forces. The learning targets are, I can explain the difference between mass and weight. I can find the direction and magnitude of normal forces. And finally, I can recognize and explain the different types of friction. You're going to watch the notes, Chapter 4.4, Everyday Forces, and take the quiz. Your homework assignment, which will be due next week, is to do the chapter review and assess on pages 150 to 154. Do questions 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12 to 16, 20, 21, 23, 25, 26, and finally 49. We will go over this review on the review day. Everyday forces. One of them is weight, and the magnitude of the force of gravity acting on the object is what weight is. The formula is the force of gravity is mass times gravity, which is the acceleration. Force of gravity is due to the force of gravity on an object. It's in newtons. Mass is the mass of the object in kilograms. And gravity is acceleration due to gravity, minus 9.81 meters per second squared. Note, you can substitute weight for force of gravity. This also means that in physics, weight is considered a force. That means that mass is not the same thing as weight in physics. Mass is in kilograms, weight is in newtons. Normal forces are always directly perpendicular to the surface. A contact force that is exerted by one object on another in a direction perpendicular to the surface of the contact. On the horizontal surface, normal force is equal to mass times gravity. And you can see a number of examples of normal force diagrams. The first one, where the person is dragging along the box, is to the right. On the inclined plane, you can see it's perpendicular to the plane, and on the bending surface, it is straight up and down. Friction forces are contact forces which oppose applied forces. The picture there is the contact between two objects on a very, very small scale. Static friction, or F of S, is a force exerted on a motionless object by the environment to resist an external force attempting to cause a change in motion. Kinetic friction is the force exerted on a moving object that opposes motion. Kinetic friction is usually less than static friction due to the surface adhesion between two surfaces in contact. The coefficient of friction is a ratio of frictional force to normal force between the two objects. And you can see a magnified view of the two surfaces coming in contact with one another. There are various coefficient of frictions available online as well as in the notes. You can see steel on steel, the coefficient friction, that is the static friction, is 0.74, and the kinetic friction is 0.57. It completely depends on the objects in contact. Different experimental values have calculated based on materials in contact. You'll know wax wood on wet snow, the coefficient of friction that is static is 0.14, whereas wood on dry snow is 0.10. So there's less friction. Metal on metal, when it's lubricated, is pretty low. If it isn't lubricated, like steel on steel, it's much, much higher, 0.15 to 0.74 for the static coefficient friction, and 0.06 to 0.057 for the coefficient of friction kinetic. Air resistance is also a form of friction. And what you'll notice is as velocity increases, so does air resistance. and you can take a closer picture to the various forces that are acting on the plane, on the car, and on an object. Once again, the homework assignment is to do the chapter review and assess on pages 150 to 154. Do all of the questions, and again, we will go over this review on the review day. Thank you, and have a good evening.